Priscilla, bonjour Jagdish.
Bonjour Caroline, bonjour à tous. Jagdish Joypal, bonjour.
Bonjour Priscilla, Caroline, bonjour, auditeurs et internautes, bonjour également.
Alors, après 2 séances consacrées uniquement à ban projet de loi, ban travaux parlementaires peut reprendre ce matin avec Question Time. C'est ban plainte pour négligence médicale alléguée dans ban l'hôpital relative à ban naissance du 1er février au 15 avril 2021 qui peut faire l'objet de la PNQ à l'Assemblée nationale. Xavier Duval qui questionne le ministre de la Santé et Kailesh Jagatpal. Il a envie qu'on le nombre, mais aussi ban cas qui finit faire l'objet d'une enquête du Medical Negligence Standing Committee. Leader de l'opposition ou les connaît si ban l'enquête là fin bouclée et combien cas fin référé au Medical Council pour ban action supplémentaire. En tout cas, Jagdish, il y a 3 cas durant les 3 derniers mois. Qui finissent retenir l'attention.
Oui, c'est un cas, comme on peut dire, dans un passé très récent. Premier cas rapporté, c'est la mort d'un nouveau-né le 12 avril à l'hôpital Sassou-Sagaramoulam, c'est-à-dire l'hôpital du Nord, une dame enceinte de 7 mois, donc souhaita, les filles bizarres accouchées par césarienne, alors donc personnel médical, Lili pensait que bizarre accouché par césarienne, mais le personnel médical finit choisir pour faire l'accouchement de l'enfant par la voie basse. Ça provoque certaines complications dans l'accouchement et donc finit une déposition des parents et au poste de police de Piton. Je finis également retenir l'attention, c'est-à-dire les services de certains hommes de loi. Deuxième cas, le 14 avril, donc 2 jours après, c'est une dame, une jeune femme de 17 ans, qui a accouché la case. Alors d'après lui et la famille, la SAMU, c'est-à-dire le secours, prend trop le temps pour arriver, donc pour transporter à l'hôpital et famille pensait, je perdu l'enfant dans des circonstances troublantes. Troisième cas, c'est un bébé prématuré, né le 5 février 2021, donc né 3 mois avant, donc prématurément, comment nous dire, le personnel médical, et ça c'est un cas qui Xavier Duval, surtout comme leader de l'opposition, sans doute, il peut capable de revenir autour sur cette question, sur Private Notice Question, il peut évoquer ça pendant plusieurs fois dans la presse également. C'est un bébé donc qui, le personnel médical, qui déclare mort, et ensuite, c'est-à-dire mort à la naissance, Priscilla, mais après, il a remarqué, l'enfant peut respirer toujours, et d'après ce qui peut tendre actuellement, c'est-à-dire pas besoin l'appareil, donc les filles retrouve un enfant plus ou moins normal, et là, parents, encore une fois, ça c'est le 3e cas qui peut évoquer, les parents ils portent plainte pour négligence médicale.
PNQ, Jagdish, qui nous poursuivent dans quelques petites minutes. Alors, sinon, parmi les autres sujets qui pourront retenir l'attention à l'Assemblée nationale, il y a la saisie record de drogue à Pointe-aux-Canonniers, le plan de sauvetage des Mauritius, une consultation publique de l'ICTA, et il y a aussi, Jagdish, le Local Government Amendment Bill qui peut présenter en première lecture.
Oui, c'est un projet de loi très important, Priscilla, dans le sens qu'il est présenté en première lecture et possiblement il est capable de débattre, ce qu'on appelle de discuter le 18 mai et voter. Donc, c'est l'abrogation de l'article 12A de la législation pour une extension mandat tout ban conseiller dans 5 municipalités. Donc, il donne le pouvoir, le projet de loi donne le pouvoir au président de la République, le Conseil et Premier ministre, fixer date élection municipale d'un délai 1 an. Il y a également une option dans la loi, c'est qu'après 1 an, capable de renvoyer l'élection municipale pour une nouvelle période d'1 année additionnelle. Donc, avec amendement la loi, les élections municipales peuvent renvoyer jusqu'à 2023. Possiblement, si après 1 an, il peut faire en 2022, sinon 2023, et il pourra procéder avec les élections générales de 2024. Alors, raison, c'est que le Premier ministre, dans la loi, dans le texte de loi qu'il peut présenter, il peut dire at any time, à n'importe quel moment, dans une période de l'état d'urgence, quand il y a une menace de l'épidémie, quand il y a en quarantaine, donc le président de la République capable proclame un renvoi donc des élections pendant sa période d'1 année ou d'une autre année additionnelle. Donc là, nous espérons que l'auditeur et l'internaute peut comprendre les élections générales, comment pour dérouler. Et un petit rappel historique, Priscilla, en 1977, donc en 1974-75, après éclatement coalition Parti travailliste PMSD, 5 commissions administratives qui nommées dans 5 la ville. Et en 1980, quand on élu MMM, qui est élu en 1977, je démissionnais, donc pas de élection municipale pendant 2 ans.
Alors, Jagdish, l'autre thème qui fait retenir l'attention la semaine dernière, c'est concernant une vidéo que nous tendons un propos injurieux qui nous fait capable tendre à l'Assemblée nationale.
Alors, c'est une question qui peut faire beaucoup de polémiques, beaucoup de controverses, surtout après 2 semaines. Vous pensez dans l'esprit là, on dit dans l'introduction, et pas de question au Parlement. Alors là, finalement, cette question il paraît un membre du Parlement, et ça est très rare, que fin lance un juron, donc, et qui certains entendaient, mais là, peut les connaître qui s'en a une juré dans le Parlement. Il y a une enquête qui nous ouverte et très rare que la police peut bien enquête le comportement de certains députés. Alors là, le speaker, il demande la police à intervenir. Également, la personne qui visait, et il dit c'est une allégation, la ministre de la Famille, Mme Kalpana Kunjusha, il peut dire, il fait une demande Cybercrime Unit et enquête là. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons guetté dans le Parlement TV, la vidéo, qui speaker entendait, qui l'a trouvé, et certainement, donc, il peut bizarre. Est-ce qu'il peut donner un ruling, l'enquête, c'est-à-dire qu'il fait trouver, qu'il fait découvert, ou bien il peut attendre que ça l'enquête-là allongée. Donc, il y a un ruling possiblement qui le speaker a donné, et la ministre concernée qui visait directement, il peut dire, il fait une demande également le bureau du clerc de l'Assemblée nationale ouvert une enquête, alors pour connaître donc si vraiment c'est lui ou non. Donc c'est une question qui pourrait retenir l'attention sans doute de ban membres du Parlement aujourd'hui.
En tout cas, c'est à suivre évidemment le Radio Plus et que l'odéfimédia.info. Alors en attendant, voilà, c'est fait, nous pourrons aller tout de suite en direction de l'Assemblée nationale.
Announcements.
Honourable members, I have an announcement to make. I wish to inform the House that on Wednesday, 5th May 2021, I received a letter from the Honourable Minister of Gender Equality and Family Welfare in relation to the utterance of some derogatory words in the course of the proceedings of the parliamentary sitting of Tuesday, 4th May 2021, which is being widely and diversely commented in the media. In the light thereof, I caused an internal investigation to be carried out under the supervision of the Clerk of the National Assembly with a view to ascertaining if the alleged derogatory words had in fact been uttered and, if so, by whom. Moreover, in the course of the investigation, it also came to light that a video footage of the relevant time at which the alleged derogatory words were uttered was being circulated on Facebook, and it appeared that there is a discrepancy between the Parliament TV version which is the official version, and the Facebook version. Honorable members, I have to report that according to the video footages, some derogatory words had in fact been uttered. However, it has not been possible to unequivocally identify the person having uttered same, and it has been deemed most appropriate to seek and obtain the forensic expertise of the Cybercrime Office of the Mauritius Police Force for assistance in this matter. Honorable members can rest assured that once I will be in presence of the findings of the said experts, I will report on this matter accordingly. Moreover, on this same subject, I wish to inform the House that on 5th May 2021, I also received an email from the Honorable Fourth Member for Vacua Floreal, Naissances, I quote, requesting that you, that is myself, instruct the technical department which is responsible for audio and video recording of proceedings in the Assembly to ensure safe custody of all recordings and to prevent any unlawful tampering with these recordings, unquote. And further stated, I quote, you will appreciate that both allegations will have to be properly investigated, hence the need to ensure the authenticity of evidence, unquote. The House would appreciate that a letter of such a tenor from a honorable member is most regrettable, inasmuch as it is tantamount to casting doubts on the integrity of the Assembly and the officers serving same. I thank you.
Papers have been laid. Questions?
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, my question is addressed to the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness. Whether in regard to alleged medical negligence relating to births in regional hospitals occurring from 1st February to 15th April 2021, he will state the number of complaints received, indicating the number thereof having been the subject of further inquiry by the Standing Committee on Medical Negligence, indicating the date of the start of inquiries and if the said inquiries have now been completed and the number thereof, if any, referred to the Medical Council for further action.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the outset, I wish to inform the House that minimum personal information will be given in my reply to this private notice question, and I hope that members will not impress on me to give very personal details on the procedures for delivery. I entirely empathize with the families in these difficult and trying situations. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that nearly 8 million children are still born worldwide each year. That is, one infant every 16 seconds, according to joint estimates by UNICEF, World Health Organization, World Bank, and the United Nations in 2020. In Mauritius, the stillbirth rate was 10.7 per thousand births in 2019 and has been stable since several years. The main causes are diabetes during pregnancy, gestational hypertension, autoimmune diseases, hemorrhages before childbirth, maternal infections, pregnancy complications, with frequent underlying cause of intrauterine growth retardation. Mr. Speaker, sir, prior to 2020, my ministry had a procedure to investigate into all complaints of alleged medical negligence, including stillbirths. On receipt of a complaint, a preliminary investigation was carried out at the level of the hospital by the regional health director. A report was thereafter submitted to my ministry, and upon examination of the preliminary report, my ministry decided whether to set up an independent inquiry committee or otherwise. The independent inquiry committee was constituted as follows: a regional health director, from another region as chairperson, a medical specialist in the field, another co-opted medical specialist in the field as required, a medical specialist from the private sector as co-opted member if required, and an assistant permanent secretary as secretary to the committee. The Independent Inquiry Committee submitted its report together with its findings and recommendations to my ministry, and where my ministry concluded on any evidence of medical negligence against a medical practitioner, the case was referred to the Medical Council under Section 13 of the Medical Council Act for further investigate and appropriate action. In case charges are leveled against doctors, the matter is referred to the Medical Disciplinary Tribunal, chaired by the sitting prisoner judge, and submit its recommendation to the Medical Council. After examination of the recommendation of the Medical Disciplinary Tribunal by the Medical Council, the matter is submitted to the Public Service Commission for necessary disciplinary action. Moreover, for cases referred to the courts, these have their own complex procedures which may take years to be resolved, notwithstanding appeal and counter-appeals. Mr. Speaker, sir, in May 2020, there were 44 outstanding cases of alleged medical negligence, some of which dated back to 2017, and were still pending at the level of the independent inquiry committees. Due to the heavy load,
my question relates not to way back, relates to 1st of February to 15th April, the number of cases. I fail to understand why the Minister is taking us back to May 2020, etc. I'd like your help, Mr. Speaker, to ask the Minister to stick to the question.
You made your point.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with a view to addressing this situation, in June 2020, the government set up the Medical Negligence Standing Committee to carry out preliminary investigations into all cases of complaints of alleged medical negligence at the level of public health institutions before referring the matter to the relevant statutory regulatory body. The Medical Negligence Standing Committee started its first investigation on 2nd July 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, the terms of reference of the Medical Negligence Standing Committee are to ascertain that reasonable steps, including compliance to protocols and guidelines, have been observed, identifying any shortcoming which may have led to mismanagement of the patient, confirmed if proper diagnosis was made and appropriate treatment prescribed, confirm treatment administered, identify if any officer by name and grade found to have been negligent in the performance or in relation of his duty, and make observation and recommendation accordingly. The committee is chaired by a barrister at law and comprises retired medical practitioners and co-opted medical specialists in the public and private sector in relevant fields. Mr. Speaker, sir, since the setting up of the Medical Negligence Standing Committee in June 2020, the committee has been meeting at least twice a week, except during the lockdown periods, and have been investigating into 49 cases of alleged medical negligence. Out of the 49 cases, 36 cases have been completed. Out of the 36 cases completed, 9 cases concluded with medical negligence and were referred to the respective statutory disciplinary bodies as appropriate. Mr. Speaker, sir, 2 complaints have been received at my ministry from 1st February to 15th April 2021. And with regard to Part A of the private notice question, I'm informed that from 1st February to 15 April 2021, 2 cases of newborn deaths have been referred to the Medical Negligence Standing Committee for an in-depth inquiry. Case of late baby PR at SSRN Hospital. Mr. Speaker, sir, following a complaint from the father of late baby PR on 14th April 2021 to the police and subsequently referred to my ministry on the same date, a preliminary inquiry has been conducted by the Regional Health Director of the SSRN Hospital on the same day. The report of the preliminary inquiry by the Regional Health Director comprising reports from the consultant in charge, obstetrics and gynecology, specialist, senior specialist, obstetrics and gynecology on call, medical health officer, regional nursing administrator, was submitted to the ministry on the same day. After examination of the preliminary report from the regional health director, SSRN hospital at the level of my ministry, the case of alleged medical negligence in respect to the death of baby PR at SSRN hospital was referred to the Medical Negligence Standing Committee for further investigation on Friday 16th April 2021. The committee has had its first meeting on 19th April 2021 and has had several sittings since then up to Monday 10th May 2021 and is expected to complete and submit its report before end of this month. The report from the Medical Negligence Standing Committee is therefore being awaited. Case of baby EQ of Jawaharlal Nehru Hospital. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that Mrs. VQ was admitted on 1st February 2021 following referral from private gynecologist. On examination by the gynecologist, I'm informed that the patient was found to have loss of liquor. An ultrasound was done, which showed a fetus with parameters indicating 23 weeks of gestation with anhydramnios, that is, there is complete absence of amniotic fluid. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am also informed that in view of the severe prematurity and anhydramnios, the case was discussed with the pediatrician for possible admission in the neonatal intensive care unit. In view of the gestational age and the biometry, it was decided that the baby would be kept under surveillance, observation, and no aggressive management would be carried out at birth. I'm further informed that the case was discussed with both the patient and her partner, who understood the line of management of her condition in view of the very poor prognosis of the fetus. Therefore, she was managed conservatively. Within 1 week of admission, on the 4th April 2021, at 16 hours, the patient went into spontaneous premature labor. The specialist on call was informed. I'm informed that on 5th of February 2021, it was decided to expedite delivery to minimize maternal complications. The treating specialist informed the gynecologist on call that on that day about the case and the management plan, which was already decided since the admission of the patient. At delivery, I am informed that the baby was not responsive. Since the fetus was of 24 weeks gestation, it was considered as an abortion. I am also informed that the consultant gynecologist, during his usual ward round, when inspecting the newborn for any congenital malformation, confirmed signs of life in the form of moaning and labored breathing, and subsequently shifted the baby to neonatal ICU. I'm informed on examination by the consultant pediatrician, the baby showed very feeble and intermittent cry and moaning. Breathing was labored and irregular with bilateral subcostal recessions. The heart rate was 60 to 70 per minute, and the extremities were cyanosed. There were few spontaneous limb movements, and reflexes were absent. I'm further informed that as at date, the baby is still in the neonatal ICU, and her condition is stable. Mr. Speaker, sir, the case has been referred to Medical Negligence Standing Committee for inquiry on 4th May 2021, and I'm informed that preliminary inquiry has already started since 5th May 2021, and the next meeting is scheduled on 17th May 2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of the private notice question, my ministry is awaiting reports from the Medical Negligence Standing Committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to reassure the House that my ministry is taking necessary measures to improve the situation of obstetric and gynecology and pediatric units of our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also wish to inform the members of that my ministry has recently launched a new cooling therapy, also known as therapeutic hypothermia, in the neonatal ICU of all regional hospitals. The cooling therapy is a life-saving treatment that prevents further brain damage in newborns who are born with a condition known as perinatal asphyxia. My ministry has also procured 14 new neonatal ventilators and also 2 new nitric oxide therapy delivery systems. This nitric oxide therapy is a selective pulmonary vasodilator which reduces blood pressure in the pulmonary blood vessels and increases the chances of survival of critically ill babies. I wish to inform the House that my ministry has an ongoing specialized training program for doctors and nurses in neonatal intensive care.
Mr. Speaker, firstly, let me table 2 letters from each of the families asking me to take up this matter in the House. Also, Mr. Teba, at this outset, I will table notification of birth for baby Kira, which says clearly and contradicts the 2 statements made by the Honourable Minister as to the baby being 22 weeks and then 24 weeks. The notification of birth signed by Dr. Edouard himself, the gynecologist, says the baby is 26 weeks, Mr. Speaker, and that is extremely important, the number of weeks. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask some general questions on behalf of all the mothers who have to use the public services, Mr. Speaker, for birth. Now, the first question, Mr. Speaker, the PRB reports have, over the years now, and the last PRB report also, have stated the need, have recommended that gynecologists and pediatricians be employed and kept at the hospital on a 24-hour, 7-day basis. That has, Mr. Speaker, I asked the Honourable Minister whether he will arrange this very week for this PRB report recommendation, I have the section, etc., to be implemented so that any time, day or night, during a bank holiday or otherwise, a mother entering a regional hospital has at disposal a gynecologist and a pediatrician, Mr. Speaker. That is in the PRB report, and I will also table that.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you, Honourable Member. It's right that I've said that the baby at the time of admission was 23 weeks on ultrasound, but after 1 week, when the baby was delivered, the baby obviously is 24 weeks. Second, now this is the clinical examination of the doctor. I have reported the factual facts that has been given to me. Mr. Speaker, sir, concerning the PRB report, I totally agree with the Honourable Leader of Opposition that we need to have gynecologists and pediatricians in call in our service. And obviously, this will improve the whole child and maternal care at our services. But at the same time, in 2013, when the PRB recommended such action to be taken, we didn't have the number of specialists in the service. Even outside the service, there was the number of specialists, and we didn't have the number of specialists, and this could not have been implemented. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are working on the post of registrar, and we have recently submitted a proposition to the Ministry of Finance so that we can create this post of registrar, and that will facilitate our services. We can upgrade our services. The grade of registrar was created with the philosophy of having an intermediate grade between medical and health officers and that of specialists and senior officers. because even if we are going to create the post of having gynecologists stay in the hospital, we don't have the number for the time being.
Speaker, I thank the Minister for his reply, but there's some confusion. The PRB report has not asked for doctors, specialists to be on call, which, as you said, but to be physically present in the hospital. And Mr. Speaker, I look forward to, can the Minister tell us when we can expect to have registrars, which are middle-ranking doctors, posted in our regional hospitals to deal with these types of emergencies?
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, sir, on-call gynecologists are on call on daily basis in the hospital, but to be physically present, as I mentioned earlier, that we need to have more specialists, more gynecologists so that we can implement such. But for the post of registrar, the ministry has already worked all the terms and conditions and the procedures in the we need to get the approval of the civil service, to get the approval of the of finance, and if we have the approval of the different ministries, we are going to implement the post of registrar in our services, especially for we'll start by the obstetric and gynecology department.
Mr. Speaker, concerning the complaints procedure, both the Director of Audit and the Public Accounts Committee have made very strong negative remarks about the current complaints procedure in his ministry. Mr. Speaker, regarding baby Kirin, baby Q, the mother made her complaint on the 16th of February. It was only after there was a large article, two-page article in weekend newspaper, that apparently the matter has now been taken up by the Medical Complaints Committee, Medical Negligence Committee. How can you explain, Mr. Speaker, that for the 3 months nearly, the mother has not even been contacted once, not even an acknowledgement once by the Rosebery Hospital, and what disciplinary action is going to take about this?
Mr. Speaker, sir, about the complaint procedures, what has been pointed out in the audit report, it was for previous years. That's why last year we set up the Medical Negligence Standing Committee, and as I have already reported, there were pending cases since 2017, and thanks to this Medical Negligence Standing Committee, now we don't have pending cases, and I've already given the reasons why we had those cases, and that was for the report, the previous report of the audit, and obviously now we don't have such complaint. Now, secondly, about the complaint, Mr. Speaker says the complaint was made to the police. We received the complaint from the police on the day that I've already mentioned, and on the same day we have initiated that an inquiry to be done as the procedure is at the level of the hospital, and then through that procedures we have already referred the case to the Medical Negligence Standing Committee.
Mr. Speaker, this is very worrying. Again, the minister is being misinformed by Rosebery Hospital. The lady went personally to deliver a complaint letter. It was picked up by the receptionist, not even by a doctor at the hospital there, Rosebery Hospital. Has this ministry no record of that complaint made at Rosebery Hospital on the 16th of February, nearly 3 months ago? Not the police complaint, that's another one. I'm asking about the complaint in your hospital, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I've already given the procedures that have been followed, the complaint that we have received through the police, and now, if ever there is a complaint by the lady at the level of the hospital, we would have, the ministry would have been informed about the complaint and immediate action would have been taken. But now it is at the level of the Medical Negligence Standing Committee. Let them do their work so that we can have an idea when was the complaint. The complaint procedure is through the Medical Superintendent Office by the parents, what I have been informed.
It's not the time to say that this poor suffering lady is a liar and has not submitted the complaint. This is not the time to say so. I would ask the Honourable Minister to inquire, call the lady, inquire, and find out whether she has or not, as she has told me personally, submitted and the circumstances in which it was taken. This is a very serious matter. It can happen to any of your parents. So be careful. Now, It can now ask that don't treat her as a liar. Speak to her and find out what has happened to the complaint. Because so far, as I can see, Rosebell Hospital, Nehru Hospital has given you 2 inaccurate answers, easily proven by the birth certificate and by the statement of this poor mother, Mr. Speaker. This shows, Mr. Speaker.
Put the question.
This is the question. This shows, and will the minister that agree, that the whole complaints procedure.
No. Put the question.
Let me ask the question. The whole complaints procedure is bancal and needs to be changed, Mr. Speaker, and needs to be reviewed. And will the minister ask an outside consultant, a firm of consultants, to look at the whole complaints procedure? Because here's a case of wrongdoing and misinformation.
Mr. Speaker, sir, what the Honorable Leader of the Opposition has said, that the patient, maybe she's a liar, I haven't said so. And at the same time, I will inquire and inform the House whether there has been a complaint lodged at the level of the hospital. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, sir, especially about complaints lodged and the time it takes, I will just give a brief how it was in the past and how now the Medical Negligence Standing Committee, as I've already reported, how it is now. Mr. Speaker, sir, we had a complaint in 2005 with the death following a cesarean section. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is only in 2013.
Order on both sides of the
Mr.
House.
Speaker, sir, I have to give information how the complaint now is being treated on a false basis, how it was in the past. That's why I'm giving. Giving only relevant answers pertaining to the question of the duration that a complaint is being processed at the level of the ministry. 2005, the complaint following the death of a patient, and that complaint, we had the verdict in 2013. There is no 8 years of, it did not take 8 years now. It's been taking only few months or few weeks to deliver the report from a complaint.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, therefore I would ask the Minister not only to ask the hospital, but to contact the lady herself, please.
Yes, sure.
Now, I'm going to talk now about baby Ram. Ask about baby Ram, Mr. Speaker. The baby, I'm not going to. Very, very shocking what happened, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, I'm going to ask baby Ram, let's say that the head was severed. Doesn't the minister agree that the basic human decency would have been to suture the head back before giving it to the parents and not giving it in 2 parts to the parent? This is my question.
No comments. Only one leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I will take this, what you've said, and I believe that this has to be, the experts have to give us whether this has to be sutured, because I believe that there is a case, and it is a police case. What has to be done after that? I am not the forensic medical practitioner or the forensic expert to give an advice on this, but I will surely share your views to the police, to the forensic expert.
Give instructions that should this, God forbid, happen again, then it will be human decency, the head should be suited back on. Mr. Speaker, I'll ask to ask the minister also. Is his ministry so poor that a baby has to be given to his mother in a biscuit box, in a encore, whatever it is, biscuit box, Astor biscuit box? Is that practice? And what disciplinary action have you taken? And what instructions will the minister give so that never again has this sort of occurrence happen again?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to point out that Honorable Mohammed made a comment over here. He has to withdraw it because he doesn't have the time to give his comment now when the leader of opposition is putting his question.
I will give my ruling later on.
I will table this, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, about what the Honorable Leader of Opposition has said, it is the police medical officer who can only do such thing, and the sutures, all that, it has to be done at that level. It is not the ministry. Whenever such incident has happened, the ministry will not undertake to do the suturing.
Speaker, will the Honourable Minister speak to the police, a medical officer, whatever, so that this is done in the future? There's a solution to everything. And Mr. Speaker, therefore, as far as the cardboard box is concerned, has not replied about that one. There's also the police.
Sir, again, I've already said...
You are saying it's the Prime Minister.
Once, Mr. Speaker, sir, I've already replied. Once this incident has taken place, the police is in charge of everything, and now it's the police and the police medical officer
You are
who
not
has
answering the
to...
Quiet.
Yeah. But
Quiet.
But at this point of time, I won't make any comments on that because this is an inquiry still ongoing.
About the photo, there's no need for an inquiry. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to come now to the issue of echography, ultrasound. In overseas, Mr. Speaker, nurses are trained to carry out ultrasound and see what position the baby is, whether it is breached or not breached, or weight, etc. In Mauritius, it's not true. The nurses are no longer trained to do echography. So I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister whether he will arrange, as in the past in Mauritius, to have midwives and other nurses trained, so that even when the gynecologist is not there, until you have him full-time, that these nurses can do echography and find out the basics of the position of the baby and the size, etc. It's a basic question, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, sir, so far my information is nurses working in midwife, they are trained to do ultrasound, and their training to do ultrasound is for the beginning of the pregnancy, and when it comes to at this stage of pregnancy, it is the gynecologists, the specialist gynecologists who are trained, who should do the ultrasound. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will table a copy of all those nursing officers who have been trained to do ultrasound in for the midwife who have been trained to do ultrasound in the obstetric and gynecology department.
I have one last question, which my colleagues wish to intervene with pleasure.
What's your last question?
No, usually it is the last question, it's for me, but then it's open the floor. That's been like that for years. You're changing it now?
Question.
You're changing it now?
Time is over, so you finish. Thank you very much.
There is obviously, with regard to both baby Ram and baby Kirin, the lack of a formal protocol at the hospitals. As far as baby Kirin is concerned, a protocol is required so that the threshold of viability, i.e. the number of weeks that is to be considered, a baby is to be considered as viable, and also the procedures for premature and breech births in Mauritius. I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister whether he will not see to it, he will not agree to have urgently a protocol on these issues so that we no longer have these highly regrettable incidents in our hospitals.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I have a report on the viability of the age of fetus, and I will briefly read this viability. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, sir, any baby, premature or not premature, who's delivered, we have the duty to give the chance for life, and that what has been the philosophy, what has been doing in the ministry. Briefly, I will just state the viability, and in the fetal lung development at 24 weeks gestation, there is production of surfactant. This is the substance that is crucial to the diffusion of gases, that is oxygen. Viability, the definition is based on availability of different levels of neonatal service. I'll submit this report I'll table this report about the age of viability.
Time over. Prime Minister's question time. Honourable Ranjan.
Voilà pour cette séance de PNQ. Donc, PNQ concernant négligence médicale alléguée dans l'hôpital relative à naissance du 1er février au 15 avril 2021. Alors, Jagdish Joypal, le ministre de la Santé, Kailash Jagatpal, finit qu'il finit 2 cas de négligence médicale alléguée concernant entourant naissance de bébé, dont un fin décédé. Alors, dans les 2 cas, Jagdish, le ministre Kailash Jagatpal fin dire qu'il l'enquête fin référée au Negligence Standing Committee, le Medical Negligence Standing Committee, et donc dans les 2 cas, peut toujours atteindre retombée de l'enquête. Le rapport pas encore prêt, donc un rapport supposé tomber d'ici la fin de ce mois-ci, mais finalement polémique les 2 aspects donc concernant les 2 cas. D'abord concernant le bébé Ram, donc Xavier Duval qui fait une cause, fin demander qui faire, fin remettre le bébé, donc le bébé Ram en 2 parties à la famille, et aussi les fin revine l'eau boîte dans laquelle tu mets sa bébé qui fin décédé là. Et l'autre cas, la polémique, c'était concernant la plainte qui fin logée par la famille du bébé Kirin. Dans ce cas-là, nous rappelle qu'en fait le bébé s'est déclaré mort, mais en fait il respirait toujours aujourd'hui.
Oui. Alors donc d'abord, au départ, le ministre de la Santé, Kailash Jagatpal, il est très prudent dans son explication parce que c'est 2 questions ou 3 questions très sensibles qui concernent donc la famille. Et Xavier Duval lit en retour en présence de lettres pour certifier que la famille, dans 2 cas concernés de négligence médicale, la famille peut donner autorisation, soulève la question. Alors là-bas, nous évoquons ça au départ, Priscilla, c'est le premier cas rapporté, le bébé, donc un nouveau-né, le 12 avril à l'hôpital Ramgoulam. C'est une dame, la famille Ram, justement, enceinte de 7 mois. C'est sous état. Donc l'affaire est référée à la police, confirmation que le ministre a donnée. Alors, donc, dans le sens qu'il y a beaucoup de controverses, beaucoup de polémiques qui peuvent engager sa question-là. Est-ce qu'il finit un manquement au niveau du personnel médical parce que quand le bébé est né, c'est-à-dire au lieu de faire un avortement, de faire un accouchement par la voie basse, c'est qu'expliquer que le corps a été détaché de la tête. Donc ça, c'est une question qui peut soutenir par Xavier Duval, leader de l'opposition. Et là, le ministre peut dire l'enquête médicale peut continuer et il rappelle c'est-à-dire le conseil concerné, il peut déjà faire plusieurs réunions là-dessus. L'affaire rapportée à la police le 14 avril, finira l'enquête préliminaire le même jour, donc par le personnel médical, le gynécologue également fin besoin d'un détail, et un rapport préliminaire il soumet au Regional Health Director de l'hôpital du Nord. Et ensuite, le cas référé au Medical Negligence Committee, donc qui est présidé par un homme de loi, donc et là, Piatan, qui prend encore les autres réunions de travail, dernière réunion de travail, finira le 10 mai, donc le 19 avril juin, le 10 mai, alors expected qui le rapport d'ici la fin de ce mois, end of this month, pour un rapport sur le premier cas, donc rapporté à l'hôpital du Nord. Deuxième cas, c'est le 1er février 2021, donc finena un bébé qui naît 23 semaines, donc après, avec c'est-à-dire le département néonatal remarque c'est-à-dire très prématurément le bébé en difficulté, et là le ministre de la Santé n'explique toute sa procédure, suivi qui finit faire par le département néonatal pour capable assurer une surveillance rapprochée sur la maman avant la naissance. Mais à un moment que le personnel médical il pensait le bébé est déjà mort et donc le papier n'a assez suffisamment de sensibilité, donc je finis proclamer plus ou moins un mot né Mais après, elle trouvé les titres toujours vivants. Et là, l'enfant est toujours dans le département néonatal et il a un suivi médical qui peut continuer. Là, l'enquête a commencé le 5 mai, le 17 mai et bientôt dans une prochaine réunion du Medical Negligence Committee. Donc, ça, les questions-là pour évoquer par le comité et apporter un rapport pour soumettre donc au ministère. Et là, le ministre de la Santé dit qu'il y a une procédure. Il y a en cas de négligence médicale, après qu'il y ait toute bonne instance qui concernait, il y a 3-4 instances qui concernaient jusqu'au Medical Council. Quand je finis d'étudier le rapport, un rapport d'enquête, donc il y a jusqu'à Public Service Commission qui est capable de prendre sanction contre n'importe quel personnel médical trouvé, donc, comment dire, accusé de négligence.
Alors, l'aspect de cette PNQ, une question additionnelle de Xavier Luc Duval Jagdish, c'est concernant rapport PRB qui cause la présence de pédiatre et gynécologue 24/7 à l'hôpital.
Oui, c'est-à-dire le dernier rapport du Pew Research Bureau, il dit bizarre et na ban gynécologue également pour cela, ban pédiatre et 24/7, c'est-à-dire pendant 24 heures, 7 jours au 7 dans les hôpitaux, pour qui assurer à n'importe quel moment je suis capable d'intervenir d'urgence. Là, le ministre rejoint Xavier Duval, au moins en 2 fois, il rejoint Xavier Duval, quand il est d'accord avec lui. Oui, c'est une question qui est bien considérée, et donc bien qui est dans ce service-là, un service d'assistance très rapproché en faveur de bonnes mamans, donc bonnes familles qui, quand les bonnes enfants, est né. Mais là, le ministre il a dévié un petit peu la question de Xavier Duval, quand il cause le poste de registrar qui peut bientôt pour nommer, pour capable faciliter sa coordination entre l'hôpital et gynécologue ou pédiatre. Là, il peut dire bientôt, d'après le rapport du PRB, alors donc pour aller vers nomination de sa poste de registrar pour faciliter et pour upgrade, c'est-à-dire améliorer le système. Mais là, Xavier Duval peut dire physiquement, besoin d'une présence. Ce n'est pas une question de registrar ou bien on call. Parce que le ministre dit ça gynécologue et également pédiatre, je toujours on call, je là, une fois besoin de service, mais Xavier Duval peut dire je besoin poster physiquement, donc physiquement, je besoin, mais le ministre peut répondre pour dire pénal suffisamment de sa personnel là pour capable assurer un service, mais il est d'accord qu'il y a une proposition qui besoin de mettre en application.
Et juste avant la séance de la PNQ, Jagdish, comme on t'a mentionné en introduction, tu as une décision probablement du speaker concernant une vidéo en circulation, comme on nous connaît, quand il un propos injurieux qui finit tenir à l'Assemblée nationale. Et là, le speaker finit dire qu'il est impossible pour identifier qui s'en là fin tenir de tels propos. Il dit qu'il y fin rôde l'assistance du cybercrime pour enquête davantage sur ce cas.
Oui, c'est la séance du 4 mai, mardi 4 mai, qui finira un juron, un député, parmi les 70, il lance donc une journée à l'intérieur. Et ça, comme le speaker dit, il fait widely commented dans la presse, donc largement commenté, largement critiqué également. Donc, il y a une enquête interne qui finit instituée, alors sous la supervision du clerc de l'Assemblée nationale. Mais le speaker reconnaît qu'il y a 2 versions. Il y a la version originale qui fait une commit, c'est-à-dire les bonnes paroles qui finissent prononcées dans le Parlement par le député, mais il y a une version qui est en circulation sur Facebook. Et pour cela, on connaît, il est facile aujourd'hui faire un montage, modifier et certains mots ou bien couvrir la voix de quelqu'un pour ajouter quelque chose qui n'est pas fin de dire. Et là, le speaker peut dire, donc, il fait une demande, comme on peut rappeler, il fait une demande c'est-à-dire au forensic office de l'assistance pour capable guetter comment et ça n'a vraiment pour trouver le finding, c'est-à-dire arrive à une conclusion dans sa question-là. Il y rappelle qu'il est le 5 mai 2021, donc il finit un email de Stéphanie Anctil député de Vacua-Floréal, quand il fait une l'enquête, donc une enquête interne. Également, la députée Antil, il demande au speaker et assurer qu'il y ait une safe custody, qui sa bande sonore là, donc du Parlement TV, au moins sa bande sonore là bien gardée. Et pour speaker, c'est une allégation, c'est une atteinte et à
remettre en question,
remettre en doute la compétence et aussi la capacité généralement pour le Parlement de garder, c'est-à-dire la documentation.
Voilà donc pour cette séance de la PNQ. Jagdish Joypal, merci beaucoup.
Oui, mais ne pas oublier, Priscilla, il y a environ 16 questions qui sont adressées au Premier ministre. C'est bon pour nos auditeurs connaître, également nos internautes. Là, nous ne passons pas la phase, l'exercice de private notice question. Donc, automatiquement, il y a une question qui est adressée au Premier ministre. Il y a pour répondre à environ 16 questions. Différentes questions qui concernent... surtout à Mia qui peut demander le nombre de contraventions qui viennent dresser et concernant excès de vitesse, tout ça. Alors, ça fait partie de cette question-là. Et après, il y a environ 80 questions qui sont adressées à ban ministre, donc différents ministres qui bien répondent à cette bonne question-là. Et après, certainement, il y a un débat, les 2 projets de loi, débat qui finit déjà commencé depuis 2 semaines.
Merci Jagdish. Voilà donc pour cette séance de la PNQ. L'info en continu, évidemment, c'est sur Radio Plus et défimedia.info. À bientôt.
À bientôt.